Hello and welcome to episode 2 of our 4-part series where myself and Gonzo are ranking off West Ham United players. If you haven't seen episode 1, you need to go watch it first, where we discuss the likes of Aaron Creswell and Vladimir Sufal as we're building our tier list. Gonzo calls it an old idea, but I love a tier list, I do. We've got a further 6 players on the tier list that we're going to allocate into tiers in this episode. Gonzo, you ready to rock and roll?
I can't wait.
So this is what we've got thus far, and our first player of this episode, Gonzo, is Pablo Fornals.
Oh dear! This is I don't know why I wasn't expecting this. I should really be expecting everybody, shouldn't I? I hadn't really considered this one.
Yeah, spoiler: we've got every other first-team player at West Ham coming up over the series. I haven't left anyone out.
There you go. It's only me that's surprised. You lot know this. It's just me. I think he's been all right. No, I don't.
No, I think no. He's been
quite poor. He's had some good substitute appearances. Rescued us in one of the games in Europe. Might have been the first Silky Ball game, quite possibly. Brought on at half time to rescue the game. Did really, really well. Got a brace in the European game in the dead rubber at the end, where the skulls started. Against FCSB reserves, really, wasn't it? So yeah, in Europe
against Blackburn,
scored.
He's scoring against all the rubbish teams, isn't he?
Yeah, so I think with that in mind, he's lost his place.
Well, that's my biggest point. Yeah, he can't be. All right means he's held his own. He hasn't even done that. He's lost his place.
No, he's held someone else's. Sorry.
I agree with you. He's been quite poor. I think my expectation for him this season was probably similar to what we've seen, but maybe a little bit more, which is producing more in the Premier League, the games that matter, the bread and butter games, and he's been disappointing in those. And I've actually got to the point where I have a lot of sympathy for him, because going into that Leicester game, obviously we knew he was going to start, but I thought one of our subscribers made that point about how Moyes has changed Fornals. Fornals is no longer the player we bought, that player that we saw at Villarreal's got. And I've just got this sympathy for him, because Moyes has moulded him over the last 2.5 years, and now he's dropped him for Paqueta, a flair player, which is what Fornals was before Moyes. I just think it's absolutely bonkers. He must be scratching his head thinking, hang on a minute, Gaffer, I'm doing what you wanted me to, and now I'm being dropped for somebody that I used to be. I used to play like that, but you've told me to stop doing it, and now I'm out of the team. So I've got a lot of sympathy for him. But when called upon, he's been disappointing. He's been very limited in possession. Yeah, and we are just starved of creativity. We were last season, but this season we are starved of any player that's got the ability to unlock a defence, and he's a big part of that. Defensively, he's been average at best, which is usually sort of his stronger points for being in the team. He's lost his place, and I don't really see him getting it back either, which I think is the worst thing. It's not like, I don't know, Cornet, for example. I expect Cornet to come back from fitness and eventually get into the starting 11, whether he stays in there or he drops out, but he will get plenty of starts. I would make a bet with you now that if between now and the end of the season in the Premier League, pending rotation games in between cup games or whatever, Cornet starts more than Fornals if they're both fit.
I'm not making a bet with you. I know exactly what you're like. There's no bet at all. Thank you very much.
Fornals quite poor. Shall we move on to the next one?
Yeah.
Who we got? Let's have a little look. We have got Maxwel Cornet.
Oh, you ain't got a section. You ain't got a section on there for Maxwel Cornet. Quite frankly, what a bloody waste of money. What a bloody waste of money he's been. I'm really sick of it already. He needs replacing in January. If he comes back, great. I'll write him off. I've already written him off. Anything that he does is a bonus. Right? I don't expect him to play. Really don't. I'm really disappointed with him, actually. I've waited around for a long time, moaning about us not having a left winger and all the other stuff. And then we simply get this player who can play left wing, can also play right wing. But also, when I saw him initially in Europe, I thought, maybe he can play as a striker as well. He's actually the person I thought looked best partner in Scamacca. It was only glimpsed. It was only a little bit. And then he gets a knock, and then he's sick, and then he gets another knock, and he's not quite... honestly, I'm used to Craig Dawson, right? A broken nose, and leg and body, broken Dawson. And then, this fella, he's chipped his toenail and he can't play. Honestly, I'm already annoyed with him. Terrible. Bottom. Relegation.
I don't see how you can be that disappointed by him, though, because this is what he's always been like.
Well, because I don't know it. I didn't know that. That's why I'm disappointed. If you're armed with the information, you can sit there and say, this is what he's like, mate. I knew this was coming. I didn't.
The worst thing is, I'm not sure Moyes knew it, because in his press conferences, he's quite coy about a lot of players' fitnesses, and he likes to almost bluff a little bit. But when it comes to Cornet, especially, the last two games, he's very stern, he's unavailable. Mm. He doesn't go into why. He doesn't say if he's got a knock, if he's injured, if he's ill. He doesn't say why. He just says he's unavailable for this game, which makes you wonder if there is something more to it. But with Cornet, when he was at Burnley, if he ain't 100%, he ain't playing. He does not play if he's not 100% fit, whether you like it or not, and clearly you don't. But that's the player we were buying. So I don't think, to some extent, we can have any complaints as such. When I've seen him, I think he's looked quite good. I think he's deserved more time prior to his injury. It took Moyes quite a while to put him into the team, actually. I think he'd done enough to merit starting almost immediately when he came in. But maybe that's why Moyes hasn't started him, which is I can't rely on you, because eventually you're going to disappear for a few weeks. So I'm going to have to use you as a bit part player. When he played against Wolves for that half hour, he looked bloody good in that game. And then he went off injured and we've not seen him since. So
I got something to say.
Go on then.
Right. I think that all the time Cornet has been injured and hasn't played, I think Zuma's been more injured and played.
Yeah, clearly, yes.
Yeah, so that I don't like. One of them has got attitude and perseverance to play through. One of them just not committed. It's a hell of a lot of money, 17 million for someone that doesn't seem to be committed. He's got and this is the thing. He starts at negative equity now, so he has got to really pull it. In my mind, might not be the same for everyone. In my mind, he's really got to pull it round to try and do something at West Ham. We've just discussed Pablo Fornals in this video.
But he will. He will, Gonzo, because he's good enough.
Well, he's
talented. I think he'll still be a successful signing for us. I still back Maxwel Cornet to be a success. And actually, of all the players on the screen at the minute, which is the entire club plus flipping Vlasic and Masuaku, I can't delete them. If I had to pick someone that could save our season, Cornet is in the top 2 or 3 selections for me. He's the type of player that actually could come in, get some assists and get some goals. And you've said it. I thought he was the guy for Scamacca. He probably is the guy for Scamacca. So I'm going to let you put him in very poor, because I know you feel really strongly about him. So I'm not going to argue with an angry man. Right, Saeed Benrahma. Shall we get the top tier up and running?
Get him in there. Get him in there. Thank goodness. Thank goodness for Saeed Benrahma. As it would be, well, it's not been an entertaining season, but he's contributed. I would imagine at least half of the entertainment in terms of what we've seen going forwards. And it's not just that. Goals and creativity and putting teams on the back foot when we seem as a team content to sit back all the time. It's one player that you look at who consistently, and I mean that consistently this season, will give the opposition something to think about. We give him nothing to think about generally, nothing. But he does. He always does. And even when he's not, there have been games, even when he's not on top form, Geo, again, I've been looking around for me player ratings book. I've misplaced it. But I think even on some of his poorer games, he's still got a 6 out of 10. When he's playing well, he gets an 8 out of 10. And he's a very good player, mate. A very, very good player. And I think he's come of age this season.
He is the player benefiting the most from the team being crap. Because some of his performances where he's won man in a match shouldn't be winning man in a match. He plays well and that's it. But because the rest of the team have been that poor and we're desperate for a little bit of something, we cling to that little bit of something. Yep. Like against Crystal Palace when he got subbed off in the crowd booed. Moyes wasn't even that wrong, I don't think, when Moyes said after he scored his goal, what did he do? He didn't do really much. I don't think he was wrong. Benrahma didn't actually do that much. But the point is he still did more than Jarrod Bowen on the other side of the pitch. Now, that performance from Benrahma shouldn't be enough to keep him on the pitch for 90 minutes. Moyes should be correct and sub him in. But he wasn't, because he left on players on the park that were poorer than Saeed Benrahma. He is a Hammer of the Year contender for me. But I don't think he should be to some extent. I think that should be a very strong season, and that is it. But because the team's been that bad, I think it does catapult him into that top category. I think he's one of the first names on the team sheet at the minute. He's been good. He's still been a bit inconsistent, but his consistency has certainly improved from seasons gone by. And we're now seeing him grow into the role. He's getting a bit more confident. And he's actually one player I'm a bit gutted for that the World Cup's come around, because he was getting a little bit more braver every week. And against Leicester, he'd try a couple of things that didn't work. Sometimes previously he'd head go down, he'd stop, but he actually kept going. I quite like that, actually. That's a player coming out of his shell now. We need to really encourage that. And I'm hoping that we see that side Benrahma when we come back after the World Cup break. And in a weird way, I think there'd almost be something quite romantic to some extent about Saeed Benrahma winning Hammer of the Year. It's almost like two fingers up to the manager saying, right, I've been here for the whole time, you've just ignored me, but this is how good I can be, actually. So yeah, Saeed Benrahma, first player into the top category, which is Hammer of the Year contender. And I don't think there'll be too many joining him. And definitely not the next player, which is Jarrod Bowen. He's got to be very poor, Gonzo.
By his own high standards, he has to be.
He has to be.
Yeah. Really, really bad. I wonder, actually. I do wonder about the England call-up and all the rest of it. This is the thing. When a player drops off from such a lofty position, such high standards, I think it's natural to start being inquisitive and looking for the reasons why, because we don't know. And I think naturally it's lead me to wonder if it was that England call-up. I don't know why that would make that happen.
It might be. But it's also it could have dented his confidence where he gets called up, he doesn't play. One game wasn't even on the bench.
No, but he did play in one of the games though. So
yes,
he made his, it's not like Antonio got called up for England and then he didn't play. He did play and actually played okay. And then he was used in the next match as well. So I think he's got 2 England caps now. So, and the manager praised him as well. So unless he thought, I'm going to join up with England, I'm going to be a world beater and I'm going into the World Cup squad, I'm going to be one of England's best players, and then he was disappointed. But I can't imagine he did. I've got to think if you're in his position to go for the championship, your first time you're in the squad, you get to play, and the manager praises you.
Yeah, hang on a minute. You've got muddled up. You're talking about at the end of the season. I've just checked.
Yes.
He got called up in September for the Nations League. He didn't play. In one of those games in September, he wasn't even in the squad, and Ivan Toney was the other one. Ivan Toney wasn't in the squad one game either.
He did play a game for England.
I'm sure he didn't.
I'm sure he did. He definitely played a game for England. I'm telling you, he played a game for England. Honestly, as people will say in the chat, he definitely played a game for England. And Sarah Southgate played. I mean, if that is not the case, I need help. I've imagined a whole scenario in my head, and I've imagined a press conference. Then I'm going to need a lot of help, and I'm pretty going out on a limb here.
I'm gonna go have a look while you continue your chatting.
Okay, I'm a little bit nervous now, to be perfectly honest.
So am I.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, crikey, I'm a madman here. Anyway, I don't know what it is. I don't know why it would be that he would drop off so much. I mean, there's people that point to lots of different things, that he hadn't been running through a potato field like he did the first time. We don't know. Maybe he was running through the potato field. I think it was his father's potato field. Maybe he told Thomas Souček about the potato field, and Thomas Souček went and nicked all the potatoes for his potato salad, and he's not been able to quite build himself up since then. I don't know, Geo, but by his own standards, when he was rumoured to be 60 million for from going to Liverpool, I know you personally didn't believe he was going to Liverpool, but I wouldn't have been surprised if Jarrod Bowen had been sold. It felt right that he'd gone from a £20 million player to a sort of £50 million player. That felt sort of right. He's now not one of the top guys.
Anyway, you've lost the plot. I've just checked.
He hasn't played for England.
Not this season.
No, not this season, but last season he has played for England.
Yes, that's what I've said to you.
Oh, right, crikey. Yes,
last season he did. This season he got called up in September and he wasn't used at all.
Yes, sorry.
He was on the bench, and then the other game he wasn't even on the bench.
Yeah, sorry. Yes,
that's got to impact him. When you get called up, you're not even on the bench.
Yes,
and
sorry.
then
I thought you were saying he'd never played for England. I remember him playing. Yeah.
This season he got called up and wasn't utilised.
Yeah.
By Gareth Southgate. But it's also the amount of minutes he's played as well. There's a lot of talk about all the minutes Declan Rice has played. But it's also Jarrod Bowen as well. You go back to last season, he was just constantly in the team. There's nobody to replace him with. Europa League run. Then he gets called up for England at the end of the season in the Nations League. He's away playing there. And I've got faith that Bowen will come good. I've got faith that he's going to have a big save between now and the end of the season. I still think he's a top player. But so far this season, I think he's been very poor. But that goes back to expectation. I expected him to be in the top category easily. I thought he might actually win Hammer of the Year this season. I had high hopes for him.
Yes, I did. It was my
and I still do. And there has been spells where he looks like he's getting better. 2 games in a row, he's been better than the previous game. But the 4th game, he's gone backwards again. But 2 goals so far this season in 15 appearances, it's not enough for somebody of that caliber. It's not enough for any winger at a Premier League club to have 2 goals in 15 games. That's poor. We need more from him. We need better from him. He needs to be dropped to help him out, if anything. Say, just have a break, have a rest. And he's actually somebody, if you could wave a magic wand over the squad and say, when we come back after the World Cup, this player will go back to as good as it can be, he'd be in my top 2-3 players. I'd say the S please, because if Jarrod Bowen starts scoring and assisting goals, naturally, Skamaka's going to start scoring goals just because Jarrod Bowen's got better. Yeah. But this season so far, he's got to go in the bottom category, which is very, very poor. 2 more to do in this episode. Areola. All right.
Yeah, I think you're right. All right. Yeah. Yes, he's not been as good as Fabianski. Yeah. What can you say? He has. Yeah, you're right. He's been all right. He's been all right in Europe. Been probably pretty decent in Europe. The penalty stuff, I'm not overly happy with. To be fair, the penalty shootout. But yeah, we'll put him in all right.
And Aguerd, all right as well. Again,
I guess so. We can't really judge him, can we, Geo? It's you can't.
He's played some European games, look relatively good in them, but untested.
I think he's a good player. I think he'll be a good player, but that would be a prediction rather than what's done this season. £35 million, not his fault. The difference to Cornet, I don't class them as the same. By the way, it clearly was a serious injury, which I think he recovered from very quickly, actually, which is a really good sign. By the way, really good sign. So, looking forward to tail end of the season. Hopefully, when we do this at the end of the season, he'll be right up there.
There you go. And that is the end of episode 2. You're now halfway through the series. We'll be back later on in the week over on the forum channel. We'll be doing episode 3, which consists of Thomas Souček, Michail Antonio, plus 4 others of the West Ham squad as well. If you enjoyed this video, though, please do drop a like on subscribe. You know how much chat myself and Gonzo. Well, we'll catch you on the forum channel.